Is it counting the red? Yep, okay. There are two main things that you need to remember before you dive into looking for an English teaching job in Japan. Firstly, are you eligible for a visa that allows you to work in Japan? And secondly, what English teaching job would be best for you? Okay, let's look at visas and visa requirements first. Depending on the country you're from, there are some different options in terms of visas. In my opinion, the easiest way to get to Japan, to get your foot in the door as they say, is on a working holiday visa. That is, if you're lucky enough to be from an eligible country, and if you meet the other requirements. These are the countries that have a working holiday reciprocal agreement with Japan. The other main criteria for getting a working holiday visa is that you are between 18 and 30 years old. The biggest benefit of a working holiday visa is that it allows you to come to Japan without having a job there already. That's exactly what I did. Most of the people that I know here in Japan, those that didn't come on the JET program, originally came on a working holiday visa, and while here they found a company that would sponsor them for a work visa. Being in the country is a huge advantage while job hunting in Japan. I'll leave a link to information about the working holiday program in the description below, so you can check that out if you're interested. The other visa option is of course the working visa. To obtain a working visa, you must already have a job waiting for you here in Japan. That might seem a little counterintuitive, but that's just the way it is. Very generally, there are two main criteria you need to meet to get a working visa in Japan. Firstly, you need a job in Japan with a company that will sponsor your work visa. Secondly, you need a bachelor's degree in any subject. Here's a quick summary of how to go about getting a work visa for Japan. You apply for a job in Japan. You are interviewed, usually over Skype, and you get the job. Your new employer applies for a Certificate of Eligibility, or COE, from immigration here in Japan. This can take up to 3 months to be processed. Once your employer receives this certificate, they will post it to you. Once you receive the certificate, take it to the Japanese embassy in your country. It should only take a few days to be issued with your visa. Because of the varying amount of time it can take for the COE to be processed, usually between 1 and 3 months, your start date is not usually decided until you have your visa in your hand. And this is very important. Do not buy your plane ticket to Japan until you have your visa in your hand. Even if you think you've left a lot of time for the paperwork to be done, something can go wrong in every step. So just don't do it, okay? It'll end in tears. Please just don't do it, okay? Trust me. Alright, now you need to think about what kind of teaching job you might want. They're more varied than you think. Of course you can, and perhaps should, apply for any type of job, but when you're preparing your resume, it's helpful to know what those different types are. English teaching jobs in Japan fall into two broad categories. The first is an assistant language teacher in a state school, usually abbreviated to ALT. If you've heard of the JET program, these are the teachers that they provide to Japanese schools. The second category is working as an instructor in a privately owned conversation school in Japan. These schools are called eikaiwa in Japanese, and that's how they're referred to by a lot of the teachers, so it's a good term to remember. These schools are generally small, sometimes only 1 or 2 foreign teachers per branch, and they teach English conversation specifically. What I mean by that is that they teach the communicative side of English rather than English grammar. These two main categories are quite different. The first big difference is working hours. An ALT works at a state-run school. That's an elementary school, a junior high school, or a high school. So their hours are generally from about 8 AM till about 4 PM. As an instructor at an English conversation school, Your students tend to come after school or after work, so your hours are generally from 1 p.m. until about 9 p.m. Obviously, the ages of the students will be different. As an ALT, you'll be teaching elementary to high school age students, depending on the school you're placed. At an English conversation school, you have a wider range of students. You could be teaching a student as young as 6 months old, and you'll also be teaching adult students. The materials that you teach and the teaching methods will also be quite different. In the Japanese school system, while there is a small conversational element to lessons, Japanese students generally learn test English. Lots of reading, writing, and listening, but little conversation. In an English conversation school, you'll probably be teaching specifically conversational English. In terms of salary, I don't want to say too much because different jobs vary so much, but I'm pretty confident in saying that generally an ALT is paid better. There is also more opportunity for perks, such as having some of your living expenses paid. This is because, as an ALT, you're ultimately employed by the Board of Education of the city where you teach, so you get some of the perks of being a government employee. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you have any questions or you'd like me to cover any other topic, please leave me a comment. Thank you very much.